and welcome to The Cult of Matthew Lillard, a podcast where I, cult movie connoisseur Jesse, go over the filmography of Matthew Lillard one movie at a time. Whether you're a Stu fan or a FNAF stan, I'm happy to have you here. And on with the show. I think it goes without saying that, maybe it isn't the best idea when someone's driving to, cover their eyes while they're doing it and just talk them through what's in front of them on the road. I just don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. And I know that you're quirky and crazy, but, it's just... What are we doing, Drew Barrymore? Anyway, hello, welcome back to the show. As you may have already seen by the title, and maybe you've never heard of this movie, I don't know, but hi, I'm Jesse, I'm your host. And today on The Cult of Matthew Lillard, we're going to be covering a film from 1995 called Mad Love. Now, generally, this movie is known as, I guess, a Drew Barrymore vehicle, okay? One of those ones that happened before Scream, which we will get to at some point, because obviously Matt's in that too. So, but this came, right after, I guess, Serial Mom, really. This was in actually May of 95 it came out. So it makes enough sense that, Serial Mom had come out the year before that. So, yeah, and this again this is Drew Barrymore's, rise back, and we'll talk about it a little bit. But, yeah, I think for me in this movie, well, I guess you'll hear about what I think of it. But overall, I guess what we can do is just kind of dive into this, and go into our figures like we do. And talk about the cast and the crew and all that. I've actually, found out a little bit more about this crew than I knew before, which is cool. And then we'll talk about the story and all that good stuff. And cover this little movie. Why not? But with that being said, let's get into our figures. So this movie was released, like I said, May 26th of 1995. And it had a box office of about 15.4 million. I don't know how much it cost to make because I don't have those figures anywhere that I can see, at least. Let me see if IMDb has anything. I don't think that does, though. But yeah, but this seems like it's a fairly probably low budget movie. I wouldn't be shocked. To be honest, I didn't even realize if this was an actual theatrical release, honestly, but it technically did. So there's that kind of thing. But so we have that. We have, this was distributed by Buena Vista Picture Distribution. So for those who may not know, and it was also produced by Touchstone. So that means it was at the time and still technically is under the Disney umbrella, which I think has something to do with the material of this movie being kind of having to been pared down a little bit, because I think this was supposed to be a bit of a darker movie on the whole, which I don't think it is. So yeah, there's that. And then, that's pretty much the basic big things we need to know about. And it runs 96 minutes, so it gets in and gets out pretty easily, which is nice. I appreciate that. With our opening weekend ranking gross, it came in at number 7 with about 6.8 million, and like I said, it only really made about 15.4 million. And of course, this is definitely from Drew. Of course, she was kind of the big get with this, because at the same time, this movie, and I think Batman Forever hadn't come out quite yet, which is interesting. So we have that sort of thing going on. So yeah, that was where it ranked. And then in terms of the what else was out at the time, there was some interesting bangers, if you will, coming out. At number 1, this movie, I know it from my childhood. I will probably cover it on the other pod or the Cult Cinema Circle at some point. I have it on the list. Casper from 1995 from Universal was out the same time as Mad Love was. So yeah, definitely. Braveheart also premiered as well, which was at number 3. Die Hard with a Vengeance, which is the sequel to Die Hard, was also released as well, and it was out in theaters. And then Johnny Mnemonic was right above this one, actually. And then While You Were Sleeping was still in theaters, it seems like. Tales from the Hood was actually in theaters, which I love Tales from the Hood. I think I talked about that before. A Little Princess was also still in theaters, and even Friday was in theaters still. which, yeah, so that's a little bit of what we were talking about, or what we're looking at in terms of what else was in the theaters. And then it's interesting, like I was talking about, like you do have like on the horizon, the Batman movie where Drew and Chris, who are both in this movie, will then go on to be in, which is interesting. And so, yeah, I thought that was an interesting thing for sure. It was fascinating to kind of see that, I guess. For our Rotten Tomatoes score, we have a 32% from about 25 ratings or reviews, and then we have a 49% with about 10,000 ratings from the popcorn meter. And so the critic consensus for this movie is Mad Love tries to juggle mental illness with meet cute, and the end result is a misguided rom-com whose sparks resolutely fail to fly. And I am not I kind of feel a similar way. Weirdly enough, I'm just seeing this right now. Roger Ebert gave this a 3 out of 4. What the hell? Really? The movie deals seriously with mental illness and also with that overwhelming mental and physical condition known as being a teenager in love. And I guess if you want to, you can read it on rogerebert.com. I'm not going to go and read it right now. But yeah, okay, Rog Ebert. All right, whatever. But I don't know if I completely agree with that, but okay, fair enough. It was only in theaters though for about 3 weeks or something like that. So not too much being on here. Yeah, and then Letterboxd, let's see what it sits at there. I think it sits at a, what is it? Let me look. 2.7 out of 5. So a little bit more with what I would say, I think. Yeah, definitely. Anyway, so let's move into our cast and our crew of this movie. So our director of this movie is Antonia Bird, who is a female director. She has been on this my show before, the Cult Cinema Circle, because she had done Ravenous from 1999, which is a great little movie, has some homoerotic things in it a little bit, like kind of sort of. It's about cannibalism in the Western in Manifest Destiny. So hell yeah. It's very interesting, and I like that movie quite a bit, actually. So Antonia had done that, which was cool. She's a Brit, so her sensibilities were a little itty bit different than maybe the ones in America. And the writer of this is Paula Milne, and she had actually wrote, so she had done, let's see. Did she do she did a movie called I Dreamed of Africa. I don't know if anything else she did. She probably did some BBC stuff, it looks like. I think she did. Yeah, that's what it looks like, kind of, sort of, is a lot of these things she seemed to even do after this movie, like way later after. So this might have been kind of early for her in a way. But yeah, I don't see anything that really jumps out at me except for Bad Love. So again, that's interesting. And again, I think this was supposed to be kind of a bit more of a like darker story, if you will, but I don't think it ended up in doing that. Jeff Freeman is our editor, and he actually did some bangers, honestly. He edited The Craft from 1996, which was come out the year after this. Cruel Intentions from 1999, so that's always fantastic. The Reefer Madness musical, which I love personally. It's based off of the I think it was Off-Broadway or something that they did, so that was always a great one. Glitter from 2001, with Mariah Carey. And also another movie that I'm just seeing right now, and I have watched this movie before, Bad Dreams from 1988. And that is a horror movie that was kind of aping off of the Nightmare on Elm Street sort of thing. And it's basically a movie like that. But I have watched it before. I can't remember if I liked it or not, but maybe I'll have to revisit it. Anyway, go watch Bad Dreams if you're a horror movie fan. It was from the 80s, like the late 80s. It's interesting. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the guy, Trevor from Handyman, all right, I think he's in there. He plays a fucked up dude. So anyway, so let's see who else is there. Our cinematographer is Fred Thames or Thomas. I don't know. I would say Thames. He seemed to do other things with Antonia. She did the movie Priest, and he also shot that, which I think kind of comes into this movie just a little bit. But I think he might have also done a lot of BBC stuff, which again makes sense for Antonia and all them to do that sort of thing. This is not that shocking to me, I guess. So there's that sort of thing. Let's see what else is there. there? Anybody else? Andy Roberts was our composer. In terms of our, there's not much in terms of, the composing or anything. I also think they've done some other Antonia movies as well. So we have that going on. And then our cast, as we've mentioned. So Chris O'Donnell and Drew Barrymore are both in this movie. They play Matt and Casey, respectively. That is correct. Her name is Casey Roberts in this movie, if you didn't know that. So yeah, she is also in this film as Casey, and then she would go on to be Casey Becker in Scream. Chris O'Donnell, for a lot of people, they this same year would go and be in Batman Forever as Robin, and then he would be in Batman and Robin as well with Alicia Silverstone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. But other things he's been in, he was also in Fried Green Tomatoes and also School Ties, which I actually like School Ties quite a bit. I think the movie's good. And yeah, he's been in a couple things here and there. And based off of the his appearance a few years ago on the Drew Barrymore talk show, he has not seen this movie before. And you know what, Chris? I can't blame you. But there's that. So, and then Drew Barrymore. I mean, do we need to give an introduction on who Drew Barrymore is? Come on. Go listen to How Do You Drew? Like, go listen to anything about Drew Barrymore. Listen, does she cry when it rains? I don't know. Maybe sometimes she does. Does she get like awkwardly sort of really close to her guest on her television show? Maybe. But you know what? You can't make me dislike her. Like, I generally like a good Drew Barrymore. She's fucking Danielle from Ever After. Okay. She is Josie from Never Been Kissed, even though I'm not like a huge fan of that movie, but like, you listen. I mean, oh my God, it's Casey Becker. She has that goddamn wig in there. Oh, it's amazing. And then also like, 51st Dates and like, she was Whip It, she actually produced that movie through her Flower Films, I believe. Yeah. And then she's like Firestarter. She's in E.T. Like, bitch, she did so much. It's crazy. Riding in Cars with Boys, which I don't know if I like that movie. I don't think it's bad though. Oh, and she's in Poison Ivy, obviously. She's been through it too, though, as well. I mean, like, really, she has... Yeah, Drew Barrymore has had a life, and it's just like in her, 50 years on this earth, which it was just 50 like last year, I think. It's just insane, like what she's been through, but she's still out. She's still doing her thing, baby. And that's good for her. And this movie kind of falls right into that of like her coming back into good graces with Hollywood, which I think is good. Our man of the hour in this movie, Matthew Lillard, he plays Eric. He just plays a friend to Chris O'Donnell. There's really not much else about him in this movie, to be perfectly honest. We already know about Matthew Lillard. This whole goddamn podcast is about him, so we're not going to go too crazy into his filmography because that's what this show's for. But then we also have, who else is there? I'm trying to see. I think it is, Joan Allen is Casey's mom, and then Jude Cecilia, I guess. Cicilella. There we go. Works for me. This guy was an American actor. He's been in like The Shawshank Redemption. He was in Sin City, $1 Million Baby, a couple things like that. So he's probably one of those like that guy type of guys. But he plays the father to Casey. And Joan Allen is the woman of the hour, of course. Not really, but like, I love her. I mean, she's great. She's in like The Notebook. She's in Manhunter, playing a blind lady. I always know her as the mom from Pleasantville, and I love her in that movie. She's so good. And she's been Oscar nominated before too for, I believe, Nixon, but I love Joan Allen. She's great. And seeing her in this, I was like, oh, that's fun. I love that. So there's that. Kevin Dunn plays the father in this movie to what's his name? Matt. Yeah. And he's been in like some Transformers movies. He was in the Godzilla movie that was with Matthew Broderick. A couple things like that. He's probably like that sort of dude, you know what I mean? Oh, and the other one I remember. So where's our little diva? We have Amy Saka Sitz, I believe. She had a short career, but she was in this film. She was in Dennis the Menace, and she was also in House Arrest. And if you go and listen to the Cult Cinema Circle, if you have been listening, I have done House Arrest as an episode with my sister because she loved that movie for some reason. And it's always been a thing of like, oh my God, Sarah, guess what they were in? House Arrest, And so this little girl was in House Arrest, which which is fun. It was right around the same time too. So again, she had her little moment and then she kind of left, which is totally fair, understandable. But yeah, so that's a little bit about our cast. We also have Liev Schreiber in here as well, which again, he would also go on Me and Scream. That's what the Letterboxd reviews sometimes said, was literally just pretty much saying like, listen, Wes Craven was just like, I'm going to take you three bitches and I'm going to like put you in a movie. But then Chris O'Donnell, fuck you. Like it was just like, which is kind of true. Anyway, but yeah. So a little bit about some production history of this movie. So this producer by the name of David Manson, let's see what else he did. He worked on like House of Cards and like Ozark and stuff like that. So he's done a few things here and there. I mean, what else has he done? Oh my God, I'm sure he's done plenty of things. But yeah, he's had a career in the, you know, film, TV space, all that stuff. Like I said, he did a lot with House of Cards and especially Ozark. He got nominated for Ozark as well, being executive producer and writer. But anyway, so he was the showrunner on House of Cards, actually. Again, womp womp about that. But either way, so he said, for a long time, I had an idea to do a movie about a boy who falls in love with a girl with some complicated emotional problems. It came out of certain experiences I had as an adolescent about a young man coming to live with a sense of loss and determining how to go forward in his life. And so in this movie, of course, Matt, played by Chris O'Donnell, he's kind of dealing with that when it comes to his mother, who didn't die or anything, but she just kind of left the family when the kids were born. And because there's the little brother and sister who are in this movie, and she just kind of left after that. So, you know, now it's just sort of that interesting, absence that's there. This film was shot in 2 months in 1994 on location in Seattle and New Mexico. So again, they didn't know that, they probably knew Batman was on the horizon, obviously, but, you know, they couldn't have imagined. And it was done in Seattle and New Mexico, like I said. In the audio commentary for the Blu-ray release of this movie, journalist Brian Reisman stated that because of controversy surrounding Antonia Bird's previous film, Priest, which was released when Mad Love was in production, major studio cuts were made to the script from Paula's script, and also the final cut that Antonia had before it was actually released to theaters. And among some of these changes were the removal of darker subject matter about just mental illness and teen suicide, as well as the reduction in Casey's behavior to just mere depression, when really she had like tendencies for bipolar disorder. And then in a 1999 interview with the AV Club, Antonia Bird said of this film, she said, the main thing I learned was how the Hollywood studio system works. I went into Mad Love as a European naive. I had no idea. We do things a lot differently in Britain, and that makes sense. She worked for the BBC before. She did stuff for them. So yeah. And she came into this big Hollywood system. No one warned me that it was going to be like this. And I kind of just blundered my way through. And I had a good time working with Drew and Chris, but it was quite difficult because I didn't really know what was happening. For a director, 80% of the movie has nothing to do with the actual direction. It's all politics and post-production, which is, you know, not too surprising, honestly. I mean, that's just what happens. I'm wondering what the controversy to Priest was. So this was a movie with Linus Roach in it, and it's about a Roman Catholic priest as he struggles with two difficulties that precipitate a crisis of faith. And this was apparently controversial and received condemnation from the church. Girl, I wonder what it was. Oh my God. I guess I'm gonna have to watch this movie maybe. Ooh, Robert Carlyle's in it. I love Robert Carlyle, our good old Bigby from Trainspotting, I guess. Yeah. Who's Linus Roach again? Tom Wilkinson. I know who that is. He's oh God, he's in. Is he the guy I'm thinking of? Eternal Sunshine. Yes, he is. Okay, good. I was like, I had to remember, but I was like, I'm pretty sure that's him. Linus Roach. What else the fuck was he in? Oh, he was in SCVU. Okay, he was in Vikings. What else was he in? Oh, he's in Batman Begins. He's in Mandy. Ooh, wait. If he was in Mandy, was he the guy with his dick out that one time? He might have been. Oh, I think he was. Wait a minute. Was he? Oh, shit. Yeah. Okay, wait a minute. Yeah, he was. Ooh, if you want to see Linus Roach's penis, you can see it in Mandy if you want to. So, hey, listen, I don't mind a screaming Nick Cage movie. I really don't. And Mandy, if you're going to watch one, you might as well fucking watch that one. It's him, Andrea Riseborough, and then Linus Roach plays he plays this cult leader dude, and he is full on naked in that movie. Maybe I need to go watch Mandy again. Interesting. Anyway, so let's go a little bit over the just random plot, whether or not you want to watch this movie. I don't know, but let's do that. So in Seattle, the Pacific Northwest, we have Matt Leland, who is played by Chris O'Donnell. He is a straight-laced high school senior who lives with his workaholic father and his 9-year-old twin siblings, one of who is the little diva from House Arrest. Matt, whose mom had long ago left the family, has assumed the role of a parent for his younger brother and sister, and he becomes intrigued by a girl who lives across the lake from him because they have this beautiful lakefront property. Oh my God, so beautiful. And he spies on her through his telescope as she jet skis at night. That is how the movie opens. And so he learns that the girl, Casey Roberts, played by Drew Barrymore, is a new student at his high school and has just moved from Chicago. So Matt asks her out and they go to a concert together. And so when Casey finds out that Matt was using a telescope to spy on her, she blows him off at first, but then relents after he apologizes, and then the two polar opposites begin this just whirlwind romance. So then Matt is drawn to Casey's like free-spirited, fun-loving nature, and she confides to him that she has a volatile personality where she goes from intense feelings of passion to fear and destruction and all that kind of stuff. In one instance of this, Casey tries to get Matt's attention while he is taking the SATs at his school, and she sets off the fire alarm, resulting in her getting suspended, and her suspension angers her parents, played by that guy Jude, and then Joan Allen, and then particularly her domineering father, and plans are made to send her away to boarding school. And that night Casey overdoses on some sleeping pills. She's involuntarily committed to a psychiatric ward as a result of this. So then Matt goes and visits Casey in the hospital, despite the objections of his father, who scolds Matt for like neglecting his studies and also his like younger siblings. And the second time Matt visits Casey, they manage to sneak out when the orderlies are preoccupied with like another patient, and the pair head to Mexico in Matt's SUV. But along the way, they wreck the car because Casey decides she wants to play a trust game with Matt by covering his eyes while he's driving and giving him directions while he drives of what to do. So then what they do is they're on the side of the damn road and they accept a ride from a salesman. And so the salesman played by Liev Schreiber, and he, I think, thinks it's just going to be Casey, and it's not. It's Casey and Matt. So then they're driving, and the salesman, because Matt is asleep in the back seat, and the salesman makes an advance on Casey. She defends herself by putting out a lit cigarette on his face. But then he the driver throws her out of the car. A fight ensues between him and Matt and Casey steal the car, and they just drive off, leaving the salesman behind. So that as the couple begins to, get closer and closer to Mexico, Casey's behavior grows increasingly erratic and anxious. And he tries to help her. Matt tries to help her and selflessly, puts her needs before his, in a beautiful, lovely example of codependency. And he gradually realizes that her mental health is beyond his assistance. And after she has had multiple emotional breakdowns, Matt makes a phone call to her parents, and Mrs. Roberts tells Matt that her the daughter that Casey is manic depressive. She needs her medication for her mood swings she has, and then she pleads with him to please bring Casey home. Her illness can be treated from there, and then Matt refuses, winding up thinking that she's just going to wind up in the hospital again. And Casey overhears him talking to her parents, and she misinterprets this as a betrayal, which kind of is, but kind of isn't though. And Casey just steals the car keys and she drives off. And she Matt has to then steal a truck to chase after her. And he finds her alone in the desert where she threatens suicide, and she vows to shoot Matt with a gun that she took from the glove compartment of this salesman's car, which she found, obviously before. Exasperated, Matt tells her to go ahead and shoot him, but Casey won't bring herself to do it, and she breaks down. And he runs to hug Casey, and the couple return to Seattle, where Casey is readmitted to the psychiatric hospital, and Matt then returns home. He misses being with Casey, and then sometime later, Matt receives a letter from Casey saying that she moved back to Chicago and she feels significantly better. And in her letter, she writes, "I had a dream last night. You were in it. You waved to me, maybe to say goodbye. It doesn't matter. Whatever happens, I'm proud of what we went through. It helps me get through the day. That and you in my heart," implying a future for their relationship. So then that's pretty much the end of the movie, and that's how we end on it. And again, since this is a Matthew Lillard technically podcast, again, he plays Eric. He's just a friend. It was like him and then like some other guy who is also like there, Duncan, I believe. I don't know who the fuck that was though. Like I don't remember, but it's Matthew Lillard is the one friend, and but he's only in here very, very, very shortly. This is a lot more of the Chris and Drew show, which makes sense. And yeah, I think for me, let's see if we could just talk about, if we may. So, the thing is like with these people in particular, I guess with Matt and Casey, we can talk about them separately a little bit, but obviously we can talk about them as a couple. I think with Matt, I guess if anything, with Matt and his dad, in particular, Kevin Dunn, character, with him, like it is very much where it's like, his dad, because he probably has no other reason not to, has put Matt into this position of like, being this parent to, the younger siblings and stuff. And Matt is parentified pretty much. He is literally having to be this parent almost to the children, to his younger siblings, when really, I mean, it's not like he signed up for that, like, and it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it sucks that your wife left you and the family, and that's really awful. But does that mean your kid needs to then also be in this parentified role? Like, no, not at all. I mean, obviously they have responsibilities, but they're still not the parent at the end of the day. And I think there has to be that distinction. So I think that's important to note. But yeah, I mean, I think like that's what Matt's dealing with. He's dealing with the fact of like his mom is not in the picture. He's having to take care of his younger siblings, and he loves his younger siblings, but I mean, he doesn't probably get to have a whole lot of fun, to be honest. He's a little astronomy nerd. Like he likes his little telescopes, and he likes like the zodiacs. Like he enjoys like looking at the stars and seeing the constellations. That's what I was thinking of. But yeah, he has all that going on, but like he probably also has this like big hole in his heart, and where not having a mom can do stuff to you. Like not having your parent around, for better or worse, like is something where you'll always feel a level of like, what would happen if it, and it's also too like you can't even like it's not even a thing of like if a parent just wasn't there or whatever it is, like you almost go into the idea of like a what could be or what couldn't be or whatever. And I think a lot of us have those sorts of experiences, especially if we've had someone pass away, or they just left and they just never came back, or whatever the hell it was. Like I think we can all kind of understand that if you've had that situation. But that's what Matt's been dealing with, of course. And then yeah, this girl comes in, Casey, and Casey's just kind of a little mysterious in general anyway. I mean, she's Drew Barrymore, of course, so she's beautiful, but like I also think it's just like it seems like a fairly normal teenage girl, it seems like, at least. And then it's not until you start to find like, oh, she has to like take medicine, or she's like this or whatever, and you really find out what the actual truth is of her, and you see that she does have these sorts of mental issues going on. And this is even at a time where, again, mental illness has always been stigmatized, and even up to today. It still is, really, but there's just more out there to try and help handle these different things that go on in the mental wellness space. But yeah, I think it's just like, yeah, but Casey for the most part seems generally, quote, normal, I guess. And it's not until you really know her in a more intimate setting or in a more intimate way that you can really realize, oh, there's something going on. And I will say, at least, it is really interesting and almost like weird, honestly, that someone like Drew Barrymore would be in this role where, you know, she gets committed to a psych ward and she has to be put in this hospital and she has to be on these meds and stuff, because I mean, duh, hello, like, it's Drew Barrymore. Like, she's kind of an example of that, where she had a problem with substance abuse at a very, very young age, and she had to go to goddamn rehab, you know, like a little kid, because she was like a goddamn huge child star, you know. So it's kind of interesting in that way. And yeah, I don't know. I think with Casey, she's just somebody who, again, like, you don't only understand so much about her, because she's only going to let you understand so much about her too, you know. And it is interesting. Like, it's not it's a similar thing. This term didn't exist when this movie was out, but it is an interesting example of kind of the manic pixie dream girl, if you will. And that is kind of what, you know, Casey is in a way. She is this person who comes into the man's life, or the young boy's life, and in some way changes it for whether the better or the worse. But, you know, whether or not that's the case here, but like, yeah, she is kind of this interesting example of that, which is fascinating. And those are kind of the big ones that I can think of in terms of like people to actually talk about. I mean, the parents, you know, if anything, the parents like of Casey, I like Joan Allen in this because, again, I like her as an actress, but I do also think like she just gives me that, like, you know, she just cares about her daughter. You know, maybe her dad doesn't not that he doesn't understand, but I just think maybe he doesn't know how to not just sound like gruff and like maybe just sort of cold, if you will. But I think Margaret, Joan Allen's character, I think she is able to kind of soften it a little bit more, because she also understands her daughter to a point. She understands that her daughter needs help. We know how to get her this help, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, we do generally know what's best for her. And again, not saying that they're perfect parents or anything like that, but I will say, like, for the most part, I think they were doing their job as parents, technically. Because again, this is also at a time where, you know, and that's the one thing about this movie that I think kind of, I don't know if it's necessarily that ages well or not. I don't know about that, but it is something of like, oh, this like girl who has these emotional problems or whatever, like, let's explore that, I guess. And, you know, even at that time, again, it was something where, again, mental illness or dealing with mental illness was definitely put as, you know, the sort of, it was stigmatized. You know, there wasn't the same robust services that maybe you could access. And I mean, if anything, Casey was lucky that she even got some of the help that she kind of desperately needed. But of course, because they're young people, which is funny because like Matt, I guess, is supposed to be 17, and they were to assume that Casey's like probably a similar age, but then I'm just like, is she though? Like, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I mean, Drew would have only been like 20 or something like that doing this movie. It's not like they both of them are like similarly aged. So, but I just think like, I was like, oh, okay, I guess she's like moved in for the senior year or something like that, I guess. I do kind of like how they when they're on their little road trip, like escaping or whatever, that they do have this, like, they just like pretty much like get a room like above like this, I don't even know what it was, but they just like get a room in the middle of like New Mexico or some bullshit like that. And then one of the things I noticed was just they had all of those candles in one of the rooms, and I was just like, that is a fire hazard. That is an absolute fire hazard. God damn it, this is crazy. Oh my god, I couldn't even deal. But yeah, I don't know, like, and in terms, I mean, a lot of what we're seeing in this like movie, I mean, in terms of theming or whatever, I think the big theme around here is really just like, I guess this like idea of this sort of young love that is just so passionate that it's like you just don't know what to do with it, and you just don't know how to process it in a way, you know. Oh my god, like, and it's your first love or whatever, like, it's so important and stuff. And but the thing is that I guess as you look at it and as you get older, in a way, it's one of those things where it can almost lose its luster in a way, where all you then just think about, like, you know, the, oh my god, like, what did that do to, like, what does that do to your family when, something like that occurs? Or you think like, oh, like, yeah, it's okay for me to just like take this girl out of a mental hospital and like just take her, it's fucking Mexico. Let's go to Mexico. Let's just get as close as we can so we can just escape and go there. Again, don't think it's the best idea. It just isn't. And again, as we're getting old, I guess, or, whatever, but it's one of those things where you maybe at one time you think like, oh, like that's so romantic, or that is so like, but again, like, I don't know if it's necessarily that romantic, because really, if you knew what was best for this girl, you would know, maybe you need to, and I guess that's what Matt learns, is that he is not suited to deal with whatever case he's going through. And so he does need that help. And, that's what's important. And then also just the idea of, mental illness and mental health, that there is something to be said for a movie like this to try and tackle that. And, it does its best to try to do that. But I also feel like it just doesn't end up, in my opinion, working that well. Because it almost just feels like, oh, okay, so like we should just take this girl away from the services that are hopefully going to help her. But then I guess if we didn't do that, we wouldn't have a movie, which is understandable. But I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, and then plus also, like, again, it doesn't, the other thing about this is that I feel like there's something, because this could have been darker, and we could have gone a little bit more, hard with this. I think it was almost expected to do that. But then we end up with a PG-13 movie, and then it just almost feels like, oh, okay, well, I guess that, and that's why it ends with like, oh, okay, well, I guess she comes back and goes to like the psychiatric hospital and she goes away. And then the end of the movie is a letter that Drew Barrymore is reading, and it's to Chris O'Donnell. So it's just kind of like, okay, whatever. Like, you almost wonder, you're like, would it have just been better for this to have like a bleak ending or something like that? But it can't do that, because also the other thing too is that this is, Touchstone movie. It's a Buena Vista movie. It's going to end up having, I don't want to say it doesn't get the, like, even the Lifetime movie from the 90s, like, it doesn't get to that point of like bad or anything, but I do think like it just doesn't really work for me, or I don't really know. I guess Matt learns a lesson of some sort. And maybe Casey learns something too, I guess, which is nice, but also I just feel like I'm thinking to myself, I was like, okay, well, they're showing off the love that's so deep and it's so, ingrained that it's like, okay, we have to run away because the parents just don't understand what, it is. And then, at least Matt gets to learn, like, okay, I'm not well suited to help you, even though I thought I was. And again, it's that codependency that's happening. It's just like he tries to put her needs before his needs, and that's never going to work for anybody. Yeah, I think for me, like, in terms of anything else that I can kind of talk about with this movie, again, it's one of those things where I just don't think that this particularly works for me personally. Again, like, the acting is perfectly good. Like, I think you have some good actors in here. Even Matt Lillard, like, yeah, he's great in this. There's not much for him to do though, but that's fine. That's okay. But yeah, I just don't think like it ends up working for me though, even though yes, there is something of like, the acting is decent. I think they are trying to get at something that's real, I guess. And I think that's what Ebert was even saying in his review. He was talking about, it's not the first movie about two troubled kids who hit the road in an attempt to run away to their dreams, but it's the first one in a while that turns realistic and shows that one of the kids actually tries to, react responsibly when this just gets out of hand. And it makes it more interesting because it's about real problems and not like movie problems, which I guess I can give it that, but it just doesn't completely work for me in that way. However, I mean, I think that is something where, you know, if anything, like, I think if anything, like, I don't think I would watch this again, but, you know, maybe you'll end up liking it, or whoever hears this, or, you know, if you also want to go through all of Matthew Lillard's movies. Again, I think they are getting at something interesting here. I like the acting in this movie, like, you know, but I also think, like, for me, it's just one of those things where I'm just like, oh, okay, like, you know, what are we doing here exactly? What's happening here? And yeah, if anything, like, it does feel like, I don't know. I wish it was also, if it could have gotten darker, maybe it would have been nice, or again, we could have had that a little bit more. Whereas it does feels like this was a little bit shaved off, you know, in that way. So I just think, like, again, doesn't completely hit for me. I think I gave it like a 2.5 out of 5 or something like that on Letterboxd. And I'll keep it there for the time being. Again, interesting enough movie, I guess, but it doesn't completely work for me, you know, as being like a really, oh my God, I was blown away type of film, in my opinion, at least. But yeah, I think that kind of brings our episode to an end with that. I don't really have much else to say about it. I would check it out if you feel like it, if you want to. More than power to you. I believe I got it on Hoopla, so if your local participating library uses that service, you might be able to find it there. I also feel like you can find this like easily somewhere to watch. Honestly, I don't know where it's streaming currently right now, but like in particular, but I do think you probably find it if you really want to. If you really want, you know, like, as said the Spice Girls. But yeah, but I think that's kind of everything. I think that closes the book on Mad Love. I think we don't need to really say much more about it. There isn't much more to say about it, to be honest. But yeah, so there is that. But with all that said, yeah, let's get into our little plugs. Do what we got to do. Of course, if you want to listen to more of the show that I normally do, Cult Cinema Circle, or just hear more from me, I am on Cult Cinema Circle on Instagram. I'm at that, and also on Blue Sky as well. All of that will be in the show notes. Also, if you want to send me a professional email, I'm at cultcinemacircle@gmail.com. If you're listening on one of your podcatcher of choices, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever, you can go and leave me a review, or a 1 to 2 sentence review, 5 stars if you like the show. You know, yeah, tell me what you want to hear more of, or, you know, yeah, is there something in particular that you want to hear about Matthew Lillard, I guess, or like his career, yeah, that I maybe not already covering. If you want me to, I will cover it. Yeah, just tell me all about that. And that's pretty much that. Yeah, I mean, you know, basic plugs. So you may be wondering, all right, well, what is the next movie on the list, I guess? So the next movie we have on the list is that of Tarantella from 1995. And that movie is an interesting one because guess what? You can't really find it streaming anywhere. However, I will say, just to give you a little bit of a heads up, you can find it on Vimeo. It was uploaded by the director of the movie, who was a woman. So you will be able to watch it if you want to, and then you can come back and listen to my episode about it. But yeah, it has Matthew Lillard and Mira Sorvino in it. And also, who else is, oh my God, wait a minute. I think it was like those two are the big ones. And then, like, you know, it's not all about Matt Lillard and Mira, but like you'll hear more about it, I promise. But yeah, with all that being said though, I think that brings everything to a close for Mad Love. But as always, thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to The Cult Of, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Take care. Bye.